Okay, so welcome back. I think we're on part 4 of our Tamiya Focke-Wulf Fw190A-3. Yeah, that's what we're doing. So, since last week, I'm about to drop it. So, I've got a little piece of wood here. Hang on. There we go. All right, so I folded up a little piece of wire there. And I've got it hooked into where the tail wheel goes and where the ejection ports are for the cowl-mounted machine guns there, so that I can hold on to the aircraft and paint it. Hopefully my wire doesn't slip out and drop the airplane. But I thought that would probably be a little bit easier for painting. That way I can paint it without trying to hold on to the actual aircraft. And as long as my wire doesn't come out, I'll be in good shape. So we need to clean the entire surface of the aircraft first before we start painting. And that's because we did a lot of sanding and handling of the aircraft there. And even if you do, which I did not on this build, but even if you do wash all your parts before you begin, just remember that with all the sanding and everything and the handling of the aircraft, you need to go over it, make sure that it's nice and clean before we start painting. So let's jump down the bench and get that done. And for cleaning, we're going to be using isopropyl alcohol. This is the 91%. And I'll be using a cotton swab. Just dip it into the isopropyl alcohol here. And we're just going to rub it all over the surface there to kind of clean and degrease all the surfaces here. We don't want any fingerprints or any leftover release compound or anything like that from the manufacturing process to be left on the plastic that can affect our paint, especially since we'll be using mostly water-based acrylics, and water and other compounds don't normally mix too well. So we'll just give it a good wipe down there. And since isopropyl alcohol has a high evaporation rate, we're not going to have to wait too long for it to dry. So the first color we're going to spray is going to be the charcoal gray. Now that's the water-based craft paint acrylic that we painted the majority of the cockpit with. And we're going to be painting over our canopy here. All of our clear parts. That's because I want the interior structure of the frames and everything for our canopy and windscreen to be the same color as the interior color. Now what this enables is that if you can see those little structures through the clear parts there on the interior, it'll be the exact same color as the cockpit area. So next up, we are going to prime the entire model here. And we're going to use the Vallejo's gray primer here. And I've mixed that up for my airbrush as well. Need to kind of thin it just a little bit so that the airbrush will handle it nicely. And with it all primed up, we do have some areas that need some attention. So I'm going to be using the Perfect Plastic Putty, which is a water-based putty, to kind of fix a couple of things. Mainly, it's going to be the areas around the gun ports and our pitot tube. You can kind of see there's where the different, say the upper and the lower wing sections come together. Now, in all honesty, it would be nice if we kind of had a space all the way around the guns, you know. But since these guns are molded into the one of the wing sections, when we put those two halves together, there's a small gap there. And since we can't really do anything about that, probably the best approach, I think, is going to be to go ahead and fill that. I didn't really think about it when I was filling the rest of it. So we're going to go ahead and take care of that now. And since it's a water-based putty, it's going to dry really quick, and we'll be able to clean that up. And this is one of the benefits of unifying the entire color of the plane, especially with a primer or something, so that those little details kind of pop out at you. And you can go ahead and take care of that before you start doing your painting of the actual color that you want the aircraft to be. So with cleanup of our perfect plastic putty, since it is water-based, you can just use a Q-tip or cotton bud if you prefer, and come in and clean this up with a little bit of water and the cotton bud there. If there is some little areas that you need to really get into, you can just wet a cocktail stick or toothpick and just kind of gently scrape it away. And this will dry really quick since it's just water. Now on these World War II aircraft, the ailerons here on both wings, and then of course the elevators, which are on the horizontal stabilizer, they were often, and especially in this particular case, cloth covered. So we want that to be different than the rest of the paint. I think I got a little spot there or something, a little piece of dust. I need to get rid of that. But yeah, so those are going to be a little bit different. So I'm going to lighten up that base primer coat with some white. And we're going to kind of want to paint those so that there will be a contrast between that base color of the aircraft there before we start laying in our true colors. Now when it comes to aircraft recognition, the Germans oftentimes painted the nose or a portion of the nose section of the aircraft yellow. So the bottom of our cowling there and our rudder needs to be yellow, and it's going to be much easier to get the right look with yellow by painting over top of this gray primer than it would be to try to paint that in later after we've got a camouflage scheme on. So the whole idea here is to go ahead and paint them first, and with them painted we're going to do some masking. So we got our yellow on and our white for our ailerons and our elevators. So I'm going to start masking these off. I'm going to start off here with the ailerons. We're just going to put on some tape here right along those seam lines. That way when we start doing our pre-shading, we're not going to be darkening up those areas. And when it comes to our rudder, which we've painted yellow, we're going to go ahead and cover that up as well. That way we'll have a nice clean departure line between the rudder and then the tail of the aircraft with the camouflage paint that we'll be painting later. And we're also going to want to do that up underneath the nose of the aircraft there, the lower portion of the cowling. I'm using 1mm tape here to get that defined line between the rest of the paint scheme and the yellow, which we want to keep nice and bright. Hopefully we won't have any kind of overspray filtrate into all of our little joints there of our masking tape, which can happen, and if it does, we'll just have to touch that up a little bit. But we do want to make sure that it's protected as best as we can. That way we can not have to worry about that while we're painting the rest of the aircraft. So I'm going to do a little bit of pre-shading on the panel lines and everything there. So I'm going to be using this Vallejo black. And of course it's slightly diluted for my airbrush. And as you can tell here, had a little trouble. I also got a splotch right there, but that's okay. That's all going to kind of blend away. Yeah, it looks terrible, but it's going to look much better once we get those top color coats on it there. But as you can see, you don't really have to have a steady hand, which is a good thing because obviously I don't. And I had some trouble with tip drying while I was painting that. But that's the kind of thing that you kind of expect to have happen. Today was not a great day when I was spraying this for that tip drying effect that you can get. So I probably should have put a little bit of extender in my paint to keep it from drying so fast. But anyway, with that part accomplished, we can go ahead and remove the masking tape that we have on our ailerons and our elevators here. So we're going to carefully take that off. But we will be leaving the masking tape over top of those yellow sections. The area underneath the bottom of the engine cowling and the rudder. We're just going to leave that tape alone for now. So now we're ready for our primary colors that we're going to be using on the aircraft here. So this is our painting schematic. And as you can see here, they call out an AS3, AS4, and AS5 for the colors that we're supposed to be using. And here is our full scale schematic. Shows us how that's supposed to go together and what it's supposed to look like. So, yeah, those are the Tamiya colors, but I don't have those Tamiya colors. So I'm going to kind of do my own thing here. Big surprise there. So I have quite a few grays. This is all in that acrylic craft paint. So I made out some color chips here, so I can kind of pick out which colors I want out of what I actually have on hand. So let's see, for the AS3, the AS3, we're going to be using this gray storm, which is a really dark gray. I do add about 8 drops of black to it to kind of darken it up some. And then for AS4, we're going to be using elephant gray, which again, I do add just a little bit of black to it to make it a little bit darker. And then for AS5, what I'm going to be using is gray sky, and you can kind of see where we're going with this. And I do want the darker gray to be much darker than it actually is. Once I spray these, they're not going to be quite as dark as they look on the paint chips. So we also need to figure out what we want on our propeller. And here you can see that Tamiya calls out XF27, which is a black-green, which we don't have for both the spinner and the prop, and then X18 semi-black for the cooling fan. I just think I'm going to paint everything in Vallejo black, and then the hub will be chrome, as it calls out there for the X11. So that's kind of it's kind of what we're going to do. So I think it's going to look all right. So the first color we're going to spray is going to be gray sky. Now that's the lightest of them all. And here I've got it slightly diluted for my airbrush. So I've marked it sky so I don't get them mixed up. And the way this color scheme is going to develop, the bottom of the aircraft is going to be painted in that gray sky. And then along the side of our vertical stabilizer there, and then also all down the side of the aircraft, all the way past the engine cowl there. That's all going to be the same color. So we need to go ahead and get this sprayed on first. And there we go. This is what it looks like with that light gray sky on. And you can see our panel lines are just slightly showing through. You can also see the effect from the white on our ailerons and our elevators. So that came out nicely. So when you're spraying this on, don't spray it on so thick that you lose the detail of your pre-shading. So next up, we have elephant, which is the next color that we're going to apply. However, I think it's probably a little bit too light. So I have a couple of screenshots here of AS3 and AS4 from Tamiya. Not that this is going to help a whole lot. More true to color is the caps on the spray can. As you can see, AS3 is quite dark. And if we compare it with the AS4, again, the cap on the spray can, you can see it is lighter, but it is still darker than our elephant color that we have mixed up. Now, of course, you know, whatever help you can get in trying to identify your color or the shade, the lightness or darkness of the color will help. But as you can see, those color chips, the ones on the left, aren't anywhere close to what the cap on the cans are. So we're going to go with the color on the cans and try to duplicate something like that. So looking at our mixed paints here, even though I did darken these up a little bit, we're going to have to change those shades a little bit. So for the elephant, we're going to add a little black in there and get that mixed up really good. That way we can kind of darken that shade up some and get it closer to the Tamiya color there. Now I know some people are going to scoff and say, you know, that's not the color it's supposed to be. And that's all right. If we do use the actual Tamiya colors, which are quite dark, you're going to find that the details on your aircraft is going to be really hard to see. And that's the point of any color scheme or camouflage scheme on a military vehicle, is to hide the vehicle. Only when you're building a model, just remember, the whole point is so that you can see it and admire it. So some adjustments I think are necessary. For me, I do kind of require that the colors are a little bit lighter, at least, than the given color. And anybody that's had any dealings with, say, Tamiya olive drab, you know exactly what I'm talking about, because that is an extremely dark green, in which case it hides all the detail on your 1/35th scale tank. So here in this case, we are going to darken these up a little bit to give us a better contrast. However, they're probably not as dark as the, well, I know they're not as dark as the Tamiya colors are. And it's also worth mentioning that I do add just a little bit of flow improver here, which will extend the drying time a little bit to kind of solve the little problem that I've been having with the paint drying on the needle, often referred to as tip drying, which kind of interferes with you getting a good spray or a good pattern. So we'll go ahead and mix this up really good. Then we're going to shoot our next color. So this is the our version of AS4, which we sprayed all along the spine of the fuselage there and down on the engine cowling. Also did the little speckling along the side of the fuselage with it, which is kind of the breakup pattern that they've got going on the fuselage. And if we look at our color schematic for our darkest color, which is storm gray, or gray storm, you can see that it just intersects across the center section of the fuselage there. And we're going to spray over top just in the center section there. And get that filled in and do a few spots here and there on the side of the fuselage. And that's what it looks like. I didn't do too bad of a job on it there. I do like the color differential there between the really dark gray and the medium gray that we've got going. So I think it's going to look really good. Now notice that we haven't done the wings yet. That's because the wings are just a little bit different. So we're going to have to tackle that next, and that involves some masking. So if we look at our painting schematic here, you can see where the wing roots are the same color as the upper surface of the wings. And of course, you know, your vertical stabilizers, I mean, not vertical, but horizontal stabilizers have the same thing going on there. And you can see from the above photograph here, or diagram, yeah, we have the same thing going on. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to come in with some masking tape and mask those wing roots off. And then, of course, also for our horizontal stabilizers, we'll have to do that. And that'll also include protecting the rest of the fuselage from overspray. Now, anytime you have to mask over top of a painted surface, you want to make sure that it's cured, you know, completely dry. And I've given it about 3 hours. This paint, being water-based acrylic, tends to dry rather quickly, and we can go ahead and start masking it. Other paints, such as the Vallejo line, tend to be a little rubbery until they cure, and that can take as long as anywhere from 24 to 48 hours to fully cure. So you kind of have to know your paint, otherwise the paint will be soft. In this particular case, though, we're able to get right to it and get these wing roots masked off. And I do use quite a bit of masking tape in my modeling, as you can tell. But that's really about the only way that I can think of to get the kind of look that we want. I can't spray a fine line and avoid masking tape. So, yeah, Tamiya makes a lot of money on me for that. So here we are all masked up. And as you can see, I've also put tape on the bottom edge of the leading and trailing edge of our wings and tail section there. That way we don't have to worry about overspray overlapping onto that gray on the bottom. I'm also going to cut up some, this is paper towel. You can use napkins, whatever you like. I'm going to use that as a shield over the rest of the fuselage where we don't want any overspray. Now, I know it's not pretty, but that'll get the job done. That way we'll be able to get into the different angles we got to spray our wings and our horizontal stabilizers without worrying about, you know, painting the things that we don't want painted. And here you can see this is the pattern. Now, I did not mask that pattern. I just freehanded it. So it does have a soft edge. Some people say, well, it's supposed to have a hard edge. If you look at the diagram, it's kind of hard to tell what Tamiya intended, hard edge versus soft edge. But I thought since the fuselage all has soft edges, I just went with a soft edge for that camouflage pattern there on our wings. So now all we got to do is kind of unwrap this little package here. And there's something really satisfying about being able to pull masking tape off and not pull your paint off. That's always a plus. And along with that, of course, it's really, really nice to see those nice sharp edges. And it appears that all has gone well here. We shouldn't have too much little touch-up to have to do. Hopefully, the yellow will be just as nicely defined as that wing root. And here we go. Yeah. The yellow looks nice. Nice and bright. Now, I will say this Tamiya tape seems to really like to stick to these flat paints. So I'm having to use my hobby knife there to kind of catch me an edge. If you do this, just be very, very, very careful that you don't gouge your paint. We don't want to have a little oopsie there to fix. Now we do have a few small items that we need to paint. A little bit of detail painting here. So this is the darkened elephant color that we mixed for the medium color of our camouflage pattern. And I'm going to use that on our pitot tube. The very end of the pitot tube is supposed to be chrome, and that's okay. We'll go ahead and paint that chrome at the very end after we've got everything done, and I guess just about everything put together. That way we won't be messing with that. And it'll be a nice shiny chrome on the end of it there. So next up, I'm going to be using Vallejo Black here. Now, Tamiya calls out gunmetal because we are going to be painting our guns. The only difference being, I think the gunmetal was going to give me a dark base against that camouflage color scheme that we've got going on there. So I'm going to use just that flat black, and we're going to paint our machine guns and the cannons all this color. And of course, we'll have to flip the aircraft over in order to paint the underside of it. Just be real careful not to get any of this black paint onto our gray paint scheme there. And we'll just carefully paint all those in. And of course, you know, when it comes to your paint choices, it's kind of all up to you, just as long as we don't lose the overall effect of what we really want the aircraft to look like. And next up, we're going to seal everything with Vallejo's gloss acrylic varnish. And that'll take and make sure that everything that we've painted stays in place, of course. And it'll prepare us for our decals and our panel liner and all those other steps that are coming up. Okay, so I guess that'll do it for this video. So we got our gloss clear coat on. And the paint job came out pretty good. I kind of like that. So, although my little speckling camouflage there is not absolutely perfect. I know that. I'm getting better with the airbrush. It just takes time. Like anything else, you have to practice. So we should be finishing this up in the next video. We still got our decals to put on and some panel liner and some weathering, and of course I assembled all the little parts, the landing gear and all that stuff, so get all that fixed up. So I hope to see you in the next video. So special thanks to all my subscribers. It's because of you guys that I keep making these videos, and I hope that you enjoyed this one. And if you're new to the channel and not a subscriber, I hope today I earned your subscription. So until I see you guys next Friday, take care.